Hey all, this is 012 Boku, and let me get this out of here really quick. Extra things are there. We go. 012 Boku, and
Mr. Janitorial Jackass. Hello.
yep, and we are here to talk about 24 season one. If you guys didn't know, my short single review is up already, and I never get over how much I like the cover and the cleverness of that. But oh well, I'm not gonna dive into that. But Jherick is here to give his take on episode of season one, 8 to 9 a.m. So go ahead, Jherick, take it away.
And hey, in spite of the time period we'll be reviewing, it looks like Hell showed up to drop the sun on our windows.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know somebody gets that joke. But anyways, yeah, this is another great one. And boy, this is going to be indicative of like the entire ethos the entire production team was behind, which is basically how do we get shit from like how badass it is to even crazier every episode, every season.
Well, before you continue, just to let you guys know, because I'm pretty sure we've said it before, but just as a refresher, these episodes have changed on the fly before, where they've had to rewrite even their endings, middles, or sometimes near the beginning, because again, stuff changes, stuff doesn't make sense, and even though people call out the flaws in the show, where there are flaws, some of the stuff doesn't make sense, but to make it meld, they do the best they can. And believe me, from what I've learned from the audio commentaries and special features, they painstakingly made sure that this stuff could be as real as possible as they could make it. But go ahead and continue, Jerry.
Well, and what's crazy about you mentioning that, and I mentioned this to Boku while we were watching it for the purposes of the review, this is kind of similar to what they used to do with pulp serials, the original Star Trek. In fact, a lot of old TV shows used to do this because they didn't have money for reshoots or doing it all over again. You had to get that shit right the first time, and if there was a continuity error, they had to do like there's a lot of old episodes of OG Star Trek where they basically remembered something didn't mesh, and they had to like rewrite it at the 11th hour, sometimes literally.
And well, to add to your thing there, and also apologize, folks, really quick before I add my thing. I know Jherick said something about the sun, but yeah, we have a sun glare behind me on my mirror. I apologize for that, so hopefully that doesn't blind you by the time we're doing this review. The sun is starting to come out a lot later, so depending on what time we do these, we're going to have a lot of weird glare, so apologies about that. But to that point, that's what I love about this show doing on-location shooting too, that I brought up to you within this episode, is that because a lot of the show, I mean, they do use sets in a Los Angeles studio for a lot of the interiors, but a lot of the exteriors, and sometimes even some of the interiors, they use actual places in Los Angeles or wherever they go to film, and they have a limited time, so they have to get the stuff shot, done, and sometimes if you watch special features, you can say, man, the directors or producers or writers are being a dick, but when you only have a limited time to be in that space, you have to try to get it done right, because you can't do endless reshoots, endless effect shots without paying more money. And like Jherick just said, you are on a limited budget sometimes. So,
and again, it's kind of funny too, because if I remember, this show was happening right around when the whole found footage movie craze was happening. Although, in my opinion, 24 did it way better. Because hey, you can actually see shit now. Oh, and speaking of which, the J.J. Abrams lens flare, make it stop.
Yeah,
my eyes, they burn. But yeah, I love that they kind of took the whole quote unquote new idea of the found footage thing, which, spoiler warning, like I said, was more of a thing that happened all the way back when we were doing black and white Superman movies and TV shows. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of neat to see them go with a minimalistic approach, but to just do it really well. I mean, for those of you who heard me rant about my favorite video games, I don't care if the plot is like contrived or if it's full of tropes and shit. If you can do it and you can do it in an entertaining and fun way, do it.
And make it believable too, that I tell people, because sometimes with these movies, it's not about how realistic it is. It's about, can you make the audience believe what they're seeing for the half hour, 45 minutes, hour and a half, or a movie 2, 3 hours, 4 hours that it's on. Because I think we've forgotten that as a movie going public is, can you believe the story you're seeing, whether it's based on a true story or whether it's made up? Can you believe what you're watching? Because that's the thing, is you're supposed to believe it. Steven Spielberg knows that all too well, but seems like a lot of people have forgotten that. Well, also same thing with David Lynch and Stanley Kubrick, and yeah, but they were again some of the more visually creative directors. So,
well, like my high school drama teacher used to say, the duty of the artist is to sell the fantasy. You have to make people believe in what it is you're doing. That's honestly one of the simplest ways to explain it, but it is such a tricky thing when you get down to brass tacks.
mm-hmm.
Take, for instance, like when we last left off with Mr. Bauer, he was being taken into custody, having to explain to the asshole in charge, who totally probably isn't going to show up in a later season, by the way, that, I had no choice. I had to do this. And he's trying to explain that, no, you got to call this shit off. Someone's going to try to ice Mr. Palmer, who, once again, yes, I'm going to say, is Bizarro Universe Barack Obama. And I will never stop saying that until the real one stops being a douchebag. Anyways. But anyways, yeah, they basically, they handcuff him. They're trying to, run the information. He finds out Tony Almeida was the guy who called them and warned him that, to keep an eye out for this guy and arrest him if possible.
Yeah.
Now, they're trying to escort him away, but remember, this is kind of like an oil refinery, or I forget exactly what it is, but
They never really say, but you said oil. My dad said oil or gas. I think it's a coal refinery is what I think it is, because it's definitely a power plant of some kind.
But, Mr. Bauer being, the most awesome, amazing man who's ever lived, does what the most awesome, amazing man who ever lived would naturally fucking do. Oh, look at all these pipes full of this hot steam. Bonk.
Yeah.
Instantly scours these guys in scorching hot steam. And by the way, you get enough of that shit, you are looking at second-degree burns easy. But it's a great distraction. It gives him the time he needs to get away, get a piece, just in case he needs it for later, which he will. And, get out into the parking lot and steal a car. And we actually get to see him do the thing where a handcuffed man basically scoops his arms, tucks his legs in and scoops his arms over it. Not very easy to do if you've got a lot of muscles. If you're really well defined, you got a lot of muscles, that shit can be tricky. But for skinny people who are a lot skinnier or maybe, not quite as well defined, yeah, it's a bit easier. And don't even get me started on girls. They have the easiest time doing that shit. But it's kind of nice to see that even though Mr. Sutherland is kind of moderately built, he can still do it. But it's nice that it's a bit more realistic. He's not pulling the anime where he just hops his arms underneath his legs. No, it takes a little effort.
Well, he was down on the ground. He saw him tuck his legs in and slowly get him up. And granted, I know what the guys are saying. How come none of the agents were grabbing him? And I'm like, well, again, the steam and to a show.
Well, yeah.
Because they probably would have been trying to do this in real life and stop him from doing that.
Well, and I mean, it's not just interfering with their eyesight. You're breathing that in. Yeah. It's burning your esophagus. It's scalding your skin. That shit can burn people. You have to wear safety suits for that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he uses the convenient I blew steam in your face to get away.
Yeah.
He steals a car and he pulls a GTA, and in the car he stole just happens to have a waitress inside.
Yep, Lauren Proctor, like I said yesterday, because you only hear her name a few times, but that's her name, and totally just a civilian in this case.
Yeah, I mean, kind of lucky in that regard. If she had been a main character, God only knows what would happen to her.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, he basically gets her to has her drive the car to a construction site so they can duck into the manager's office to lay low. And you can see just how long Mr. Bauer has been going without sleep, and probably without even food, really.
Well, you see it at the start of the episode, like I said. And don't worry about it. He should have called me back yesterday. He didn't. Sorry, folks. Yeah, my friend is going to call. And John, sorry for seeing this. You're calling me in the middle of a review. So just to let you know, this is out here live now that you're calling me in the middle of a review. It's all right.
But anyways, you could see he has just been running on pure adrenaline and wanting to protect his family. And speaking of which, we cut back to Mrs. Bauer and Kid Bauer. And yeah, pretty bad situation. But this kind of proves why Mrs. Bauer is one of those characters we all get kind of conflicted on. She's a bit of a B to Papa B. But the thing is, I mean, I can kind of agree with some fans. It's you knew this guy was involved in some level of law enforcement. You have to expect that he's going to, that they're just going to be moments where he can't be with you or where he's off doing work stuff. Again, people, you marry a cop or anybody involved in that type of life, they are married to their jobs and they have to be.
Well,
And her daughter getting kidnapped is proof of why.
Well, like you even said, and even though much doesn't happen with them in this episode besides the obvious thing, which I'll drop it if you want to even go into explain it, the rape scene, if you guys have seen my smaller review, they came back. It's also the episode where they were coming back because that same episode Jack was arrested. They were almost killed by Neil Choi and Eli Strom, where they were about to shoot them under Ira Gaines' orders. But Gaines, like we said, that long, awesome pause of Ira Gaines, played by Michael Massey, where he's sitting there thinking about it and saying, no, we need him alive, which again, even my mom called out, and love you, Mom, I'm not upset by it. But like you said, for a villain standpoint, yes, that was stupid. But at the same time, he's trying to think there's still a play here. We could still use Bauer or we could get rid of Bauer because he'll come to us. So, again, I understand that point. Yes, is it stupid for the villain to keep him still alive? Yes, but
plus it kind of highlights.
It makes sense for story.
Plus, as awesome as it is to see Mrs. Bauer basically have to take one for the team to spare her daughter that trauma.
You need to go out. You're acting all bizarre.
I think he's just, upset about yesterday.
All right.
But yeah, as awesome as it was to see Mrs. Bauer step up to basically have to take one for the team, figuratively and literally, to spare her daughter that trauma, it kind of highlights something people always look over with these situations. These girls would have been brown bed dead ages ago had it not been for the fact that they are, in fact, women and therefore given more priority as hostages or in general.
Yeah.
Any other dude, Gaines would have popped their ass ages ago. But because they're ladies, they have the option that lets them live.
Hi, damn.
Happens all the time. But anyways, yeah, this is also kind of why I like Mrs. Bauer a little bit. It's she's a bit of an asshole to her husband. And frankly, you kind of knew what you were getting into. So I don't know why you're pissed with him. But she is a dedicated family woman. When it comes down to her family, there is damn near nothing this woman wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Kind of a perfect pick for Jack Bauer, to be honest.
Well, and as you hadn't bring up again as you do that, like I mentioned, because it is an important point, I'll mention it for this review here. After the rape, where she did come back and not much was done to her, and like I said yesterday in the short review, probably couldn't go far with it because she probably would have had her clothes torn, been a little bit battered, but at the same time, 2001 guys, like I said, taboo. We weren't on Game of Thrones or any of that stuff just yet. But within that rape, the coolest thing of this episode was she got a phone, and now her and Kim finally have some leverage to try to get out of this place.
Well, and it's awesome too because it makes you realize she must have known a few things before she got married to Mr. Bauer, the way she got that phone. But it's kind of neat. It's like, hey, got to pick a pocket or two. You've got to pick a pocket or two.
Well, it makes me wonder too. One thing I've never even asked myself, I didn't even bring this up in the short review. How distracted was Eli during that he didn't notice? Where the hell's my phone?
Well, and also given the short amount of time it took him to do the dirty deed, he's apparently a 1 minute wonder.
What was it in the show? Like 15, 20 minutes, I think, if you sort of remember the clock ticking by. Which, that.
Which, and let's be honest, the half of that was probably just him getting undressed. So
yeah.
But going back to far more pleasant matters. He says with a joking tone.
Yeah.
We transitioned to CTU where, we found out, what was her name? Jamie, I believe?
Jamie, yep. Jamie Farrell.
Where Jamie is the traitor. And technically not the only one because Tony Almeida was kind of working for a different agency. But, in typical Jack fashion, he's proven to be such an absolute beast that Tony now understands that, hey, Jack is the guy I should be listening to. They're trying to interrogate Jamie and give this woman some credit, man. She has got fucking cojones of steel.
Yeah.
They are doing everything they can to try to get underneath this bitch's skin. And she's like, no, I want that immunity deal. And it finally takes, number one, we get to hear Jack finally get to call into CTU and explain why he attempted to shoot, what was her name again?
Lauren?
Yeah, Lauren. And we get to see that she's got the bruises and the marks from, Yeah, the
not Lauren, Nina. When he took Nina under Ira Gaines.
Yeah. We get to see that. Yeah, the Kevlar stopped the bullets, but as one would expect, that kinetic energy gave her some nice welts.
Yeah.
And man, she's I gotta say, she must be a pretty dang courageous girl, because doing something like that on camera, even with like only 2 other people and maybe the camera crew, it's like, this girl, she can handle herself. She's also got pretty big fucking stones.
Which I will say really quick, when that scene happened, I know that was like 2 episodes ago for a review, so it's been a while, guys. But my mom, when that happened, I heard her gasp at that scene. Like, she's like, no way, there's got to be something here. But when Jack shot her, she's like, like that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this achieved what it wanted to achieve.
and plus, it just this is like kind of like the action hero lady I like, because it reminds me of like Raleigh Vincent in that one episode from the anime where that like hook, she barely dodges that swinging hook and it basically tears off her blouse and bra, and it's like, nah, fuck it. I don't even give a shit if half my junk is showing. I'm still going to kick all your asses and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
It's just fuck modesty. Work needs to be done. I'm doing that work.
Yeah.
Again.
Which 24 has got quite a few courageous women who are some tough cookies.
Hands down, I would if there's any action lady, television, movie, or otherwise, that I think could give Ellen Ripley a run for her money, the cast of 24.
Yeah, that's actually a very good observation. Yes.
Like, honestly, you put Ellen Ripley, these ladies, and Samus Aran on a team, no one's leaving alive.
Ooh.
But yeah, it's just cool to see. It's like, this is a professional lady. This is how lady professionals in this sort of industry are supposed to be. Again, 24, 2 thumbs up. Right up Siskel and Ebert's ass, by the way.
One, then, like you said, you were talking about Jamie, where, even though she's clearly frightened and upset and, did what she did for money, which I mentioned in the short review, $300,000, and Martoni says, we could use all that money. And I
love how pissed off he looks about that on multiple levels. It's like, you were willing to do this kind of dumb shit for just $300,000, which is bad enough for him. But I love like what he says to her in Spanish.
I was going to ask you, what did he say?
I will leave that up to the audience, because Mr. Almeida, as a Hispanic, I approve of your use of the creative language. Yeah, he gave her a nice little FU.
Oh, so that was basically a slur that he gave off. Okay.
Oh, dude, he was pissed.
Well, who could blame him? Because he's like, did you get $1 million, $2 million, $300,000?
But what I love is, like, since she's refusing to cooperate, which is basically endangering Jack's family, he gives them the best advice ever. It's like, she has a son, doesn't she? Why do you bring him into CTU for questioning?
Mm-hmm.
That is what breaks her, and I fucking love it. The fear and the panic. Now, granted, this does kind of backfire a little bit later on, because, that's right, Mr. Gaines is calling. He wants an update. Tell me, Ada, where is my sample? Are you still chasing that Leon?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, wrong series. But yeah, basically, she's trying to, keep him stalled, hoping he won't panic and do something stupid.
Yeah, which what they do is, it happened right at the start of the episode. She basically cut the entire CTU and any authority feeds that he had over any places, because she was the one who installed them. So he's cut off, and that's why he made the call to her in the first place.
We also get to see a neat scene where the guy from like the outside private sector they hired,
Milo Pressman. Yep.
Milo Pressman is basically put in charge of her entire division. He's like, look, if I'm going to handle an entire division, I'm going to need a pay raise. It's like, we'll be on it. And you can tell he already knows this girl must be in the shit by what's happening. So he's asking questions. And granted, I can kind of understand why Tony and Nina are reacting the way they are. But they handle this pretty well, knowing that this guy has probably got a little bit of the googly eyes for this Jamie girl. And he knows she's in trouble. But still, again, this just shows how great the on-the-fly thinking these people are.
Well, and remember, Nina even says you probably have to bring Milo in at some point, because he's starting to figure all this out.
Which, again, great critical thinking in a moment of panic. Unfortunately, mistakes will happen once the tension ratchets up, which it does, because they made the mistake of leaving her alone Now, granted, she was handcuffed with, well, one hand was
One
handcuffed.
hand, yeah.
But they left her alone with a coffee cup, and I'm sure some of you realize her son's coming, Gaines is losing his shit, Jack is probably going to come back, and he's not going to play nice if he does.
Yeah.
So what does she do? She goes full ghetto, slashes her wrists with a broken coffee cup.
Yep, and probably because she was getting all, because once she said she had to think, she was uber emotional. And I thought you were going to mention it, Jherick, and I forgot to mention, not only did Jack break Jamie by doing that, but with the good cop, bad cop routine where Nina was good cop and Tony was bad cop, Tony said, well, you got to look at this. If we don't catch whoever this Gaines is and you go to prison, he's not going to go after you because he's probably thinking the security around you is going to be tight.
Oh,
He'll probably be putting maximum security. But if he can't get to you, he'll go after the next person to you, and that's your son, right? And that just broke her completely because she's like, oh my God, what have I done?
And that's the brilliant thing because, I mean, yeah, she's a wrought iron bitch to be certain. But even a wrought iron bitch has somebody they want to protect, and that turns out to be her son, which honestly kind of kudos. Now, granted, I do think the line where she says, my husband divorced me, I had nothing, is like, bullshit. I know how the divorce courts in California work. Woman, you are set for fucking life. I don't even give a shit if he's homeless. You will have money till the day you die.
Even in 2001?
Oh, yeah. Well, dude, I mean, that's a lot of the legal reforms to the divorce system that happened right around that time was what forced Robin Williams to work himself to death. And no, I will never let go of that, you angry fucking sluts. 3 children will never see their dad again. Deal with it. But yeah, basically, if you're not familiar with the divorce system in California, get on your knees and thank God that you don't. I have seen those people screw over more individuals than I can legally remember anymore. But yeah, anyways, it's kind of a sad scene because it really leaves you wondering. Yeah, she probably killed herself both to avoid the legal repercussions, Gaines's revenge, but probably more than anything else, she didn't want her son to see this look on her son's face, realizing, yeah, mom's a terrorist.
Which again, and at this time where it happens, this is where the episode ended, really. And Gaines calls right after she did this, and it's like, oh, great.
Yeah. Oh, and plus, there's also a great moment with like Jack where he's, still stuck in the construction office, just talking to this lady, trying to get her to understand his position. And it's actually a really good conversation. But, I know Jack was like probably food, sleep, and even probably hasn't had much to drink in a while, which is out of all those problems, the not drinking for a long time would be the worst one, considering he was basically in an oil refinery.
Yeah.
But anyways, he really should not have trusted this girl. Granted, she was nice enough, but she actually did try to fight him back in the car. And
yeah,
I'll give her credit.
Mace, and she tried to escape a few times.
Yeah, but she mentions to him, it's like I'm already in trouble. I need to go to court to deal with a DUI, which basically admitting that you were driving on what should be at least a suspended license, bad enough. So. Yeah. Asking her to be the one to go get his car and bring it to him so he can escape was, but again, he was hungry, probably very thirsty, didn't have a lot of sleep. So I'll give Mr. Bauer credit. And at least he did look out the window to make sure she was doing, in which she did not. She went straight to the police.
Well, and like I said, to just say there too, to put in as well, she was also taking care of her sister who got in trouble, lost everything. So she's caring for that. So Lauren was under a lot of stress, but to give Lauren credit, to which you're doing it too, she also says before she does go out there and betrays Jack, thinking about it, she says, maybe I'm half crazy. Maybe this is all made up. But, just say, for the sake of argument, say I believe you. Is your family really in trouble? Like I said, for pleading eyes almost, he didn't ham it up, so it wasn't melodramatic, but he looked at her just like this, and he's like, yes, they are. And she went and tried to do it, and then
and that's kind of the funny thing, because I do believe that she believed Jack and probably even realized that, yeah, he's in trouble. But it really goes back to the idea of that, everybody in California is in trouble. And at the end of the day, you are going to prioritize yourself and your family.
Yes.
Which was only understandable. So I can't even hate the girl because, in the conversation, he mentions that he's working for the government, but she asks him, well, okay, then why are the police trying to arrest you? And this should have kind of told her that he's working in a division that's not exactly, doing that's doing like wet work, if you know what that means.
Well, to add to that too, she did overhear the whole conversation. I mean, she didn't hear the other side of the conversation, but she heard all the stuff Jack was saying to Nina and Tony over the phone, which something tells me, I agree with you, she probably did believe Jack, but she figured if Jack gets caught and they see me aiding and abetting you and I help you, I'm in the doghouse with you as an accessory to higher crime.
Well, and also, like in theory, if he does get caught but she doesn't cooperate, there's a good chance they'll show leniency. Hell, maybe she'll even get a reward out of it.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, the police, the more immediate legal problems she has are going to be a lot less forgiving and a lot less understanding, especially since Jack is already on their radar to begin with. So honestly, from a practical decision-making standpoint, it actually was a smart decision to make. It's just it puts Jack in a worse position.
Yeah, because when you think about it, guys, remember, by this point of the show, I think Jack has already been being chased by the police, and beforehand, before he lost Gaines, being watched for Gaines over the last 4 hours. So
and technically speaking,
he's been in a very tight spot.
And technically speaking, he's probably also on the Secret Service's radar because of the whole Palmer and stuff.
Oh, definitely.
But this just shows that Jack, like a lot of good superheroes, works best under stress. Or, as one show once put it,
I think he does need to go out. Do you need to have Oh, yeah, he's...
You're little boy. I'll just real quick let him out before I continue.
Yeah. No worries. I'll add to it. But so, there's all those things where, Jack's been doing this for 4 hours, so there's a lot of stress. So I didn't blame Lauren for what she did, and I could completely understand it. And as sad as it is to say, you see what's going on. Alan Hayes, the Secret Service guy, is there. The cops are surrounding this place. So, Jack had no choice at that point. I mean, he really wanted Lauren to believe, but at the same time, as fans, we can believe Lauren. She's just this waitress, and as you see in things like this, when a normal person gets involved, people like this say, there's a lot of normal people, and it's on my to-do list for us to review because it was one of the films that my friend Thunder showed me, Thunder Darkstone. But lucky number 11, when Josh Hartnett's going in that movie, oh, well, guys, you have the wrong person. I'm an innocent. I didn't do any of this. And the guy looks at him and says, you know how many times we've heard that? And how many times we've killed people who've made that mistake and they still did what we did? We're just doing what we do, man. And that's what it boils down to. It's your life or theirs, and we're following orders. It sucks, but Lauren probably had that in mind too. Because again, if something went wrong with Jack, and let's say Jack went to prison and she helped him without getting away, she would have been tied as an accessory to helping a known fugitive, which they do prosecute for that. Or at least they did. I don't know about now, but I'm not getting into that.
Well, I mean, as long as she's an immigrant, illegal or otherwise, I'm sure she'll be fine. Heck, just tell them you identify as a gay Iranian terrorist. I'm sure they'll be okay with it.
You're going to get sued, man.
But yeah, as I was about to say, Jack works best under stress, or as the Doctor Who show once put it, it's like, didn't anyone ever tell you? Feels like a superpower. It can make you cleverer, faster, stronger. Feels like a companion. Which, by the way, love Doctor Who.
Yep.
Maybe one day.
Which we will get to, guys. And I even have some of the bad years, so whatever I have, we'll do. And like I said, I don't know if they'll ever release it on DVD or Blu-ray, but if you ever want us to do the new David Tennant specials into the Shooty Gatwa era, let me know in the comments, and I will suck it up if it's anywhere, even if we have to find shitty copies on, pardon, YouTube here. Not calling YouTube shitty, but shitty copies of, pirated stuff on YouTube. Because, there's people who find a way around that. I'll do it if that's what you guys want me to do, as much as that'll be cringe-inducing and making my eyes and ears bleed. But other than that...
Yeah, let's just say the Flux is going to be getting its...
Well, he probably could have a flux capacitor from Doc Brown, because luckily they haven't screwed that up yet. Rumors of that are still swirling out there. Don't do it. Robert Zemeckis, Steven Spielberg, protect part of your baby, because Spielberg, you were the executive producer. Zemeckis, you were the director. Both of you are still alive. I know there's been talks, but no, because I heard, Tom Holland. I don't know if this has been a thing, but I know if it happens and Tom Holland comes out, and Tom Holland, I like it. You've been a decent Spider-Man, but I can't see you, even if you are Marty McFly's son, being the main character, because if they were to do it, and I know, heaven forbid, he has Parkinson's, and I know Christopher Lloyd is old, and I know, well, so is Michael J. Fox. I would love to see a fourth movie with them if they wanted to do it. If they don't want to do it, don't do it, because I'm tired of them insert new character here, and the old ones show up in a cameo forgotten, and I'm like, you know what I liked about Twin Peaks? The Return, or season 3? They used the original actors who they were able to get.
Oh, and free advice, Mr. Spielberg. Please leave our freakazoid alone.
Well, I don't know where they got the thing for Teen Titans Go, but hey, you gotta give Teen Titans Go credit. The only reason people watched that friggin' movie was because Paul Rudd came back to do the voice, and Freakazoid was in it. So that was the only reason people watched that movie for the most part. Heck, that's why our friend Zombie watched it, for God's sake. So, and I'm like, yeah, and I've seen the scene, but that's not enough to make me sit through that whole godforsaken movie. And believe me, we brought it up during Legion of Superheroes, and when we get back to that, probably bring it up again. But Teen Titans Go? No. Whenever we do Thundercats Roar? No. I don't know what you guys were on, smoking the reefers with the acid. Maybe you were having a party with Stephen King, for all I know. But, no. Those are awful, awful shows. Maybe some of that humor and some of the beginning episodes were great, but then went on too long, and I'm going to completely different rant. Continue, Jherick, because we're already a half hour in and we don't need to load this up with different rants.
I'll just add Teen Titans Go to Hell.
Yeah.
Anyways, there was and finally, of course, we get to our boy, our champ, Bizarro Obama himself, being one of the biggest goddamn Giga Chads of all time. Because, of course, he's got the whole thing with finding out his son may have killed a dude in retaliation for what happened to his sister. Mm-hmm. His wife definitely pulling a bit of Michelle here and wanting it covered up no matter the cost, and even going so far as to call up Miss Kingsley in order to get the story delayed.
Yep.
Which, I mean, I can kind of see why she's doing this, but I love how easily he saw through this. And she's like, wait, why are you going to call her? Why bring this back up? It's like, I just want to make sure I understand everybody's motives in all this.
Yep.
Seriously, this guy, if he didn't get a Golden Globe or I forget what the one for TV is.
That is what it is.
Okay.
Golden Globe.
If he didn't get
Emmy.
If he didn't go to Golden Globe or an Emmy for this shit, shame on the Academy. But I've already got my grievances with them for a lot of other reasons.
Well, and to which you mentioned Sherry Palmer there, and don't forget, not only was she going to give her exclusive information from her sources, but she was saying which I don't know when they said it. She must have overheard somebody from when Mike and Mike Novick and Senator David Palmer were talking about it, but she heard that it was a government agent who was trying to do the assassination. Now, how she heard that, we don't know. But the fact she's about to leak that, and like I said in yesterday's review, you leak that. Granted, I know in today's era where we're all about truth, you want to know about that. But when you're in a current thing where your life, your family's life, and your husband's life especially are still in danger from an assassination attempt, and you're going to give this as a story to keep the story of your son coming out, okay, don't want to go around saying, hey, look, the government's trying to kill my husband.
And again, I know I mentioned this previous in another 24 review earlier, but the fact that his son is like, his dad is telling him we need to do this properly. We need to get ahead of this in the right way. And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And I'm just, again, I know I've said this a multitude of times. People probably tired of hearing it, but this is exactly the reason why the court systems react the way they do. They know you're automatically going to default to that knee-jerk position, so why shouldn't they? Because honestly, it's like, yes, we're evil, racist white people. We hate all of you. We do nothing but conspire against you all day long. Now, if I give you a not guilty verdict, are you going to still accuse me of being racist, or should I just go full Bond villain because I know what you think already?
Now, granted, and before, and don't get upset with Jherick about that, because if you guys remember, and once Senator Palmer found out about this, David Palmer found out, remember what they did say in the show. This is in the show. Gibson was a white kid who raped Nicole, his sister, and they got into a fight, and again, Keith didn't mean to, but Keith accidentally did push him out the window during their fight, to where Gibson fell to his death. And, Keith is like, no jury is going to forgive a black kid for killing a white kid. And they said that in the show. Maybe it's not exactly how that was said, but that is what they're getting at. And that's why, again, it is nerve-wracking, like what Jherick said about Keith, because Keith ain't buying it. Palmer's trying to keep his son on a positive level, saying, I will do what I can to keep you out of jail, but we have to face this like men and get the truth out.
And it really shows the bullshit of the legal system in general, because, again, remember, at this time, we were still suffering the fallout of the O.J. Simpson trial, the trial of the 4 black guys who beat that white trucker right afterwards. And ever since then, we've had like an endless procession of race-oriented bullshit in the legal system.
Especially in Los Angeles.
Exactly. But I mean, hey, that's the reason why it's called the City of Lost Angels.
Mm-hmm.
Just spoiler warning on that, by the way. But yeah, this is again why Palmer is hands down one of my favorite characters. And good Lord, did they pick the right guy to play him, because that voice, that charisma, that energy is just total package.
Well, and again, since you got to that, and I believe we covered all the bases of this episode. I know I mentioned it. I think we were pretty much on the same wavelength. Your favorite character is Jherick.
Oh man, everybody hands down could have been on this. It could have been my favorite, but I have to give it to Mr. Palmer. Again, stealing scenes, making everything look so amazing and so easy while doing it.
Oh yeah, Dennis Haysbert, you gave a great performance, and I know sometimes people only know Dennis Haysbert from the Allstate commercials where he's very stoic, but I thought so too. And there's a lot of other roles where he's sort of low-key, official, doesn't get worked up. When I see him in 24 or where, and I know there was a few movies in the 90s and early 2000s where he was sort of like a villain too. When you see him in these other roles, Dennis Haysbert does have range, and I love where it comes out in his facial expressions at Sherry, his reaction when Mike Novick says that Maureen Kingsley's sitting on the story, and he's like, it's something else. It's just like Dennis Haysbert has range, and I love it. And again, that's the other thing I'll bring up here again, and I think I mentioned this in other episodes. Who they got for these shows, for all these characters throughout the 8 seasons, probably even some of the specials they did too, they wanted people who couldn't just act, but could act and be expressive, because their expressions do help in telling the story. And man, David Palmer gives some great expressions. And then back at Sherry Palmer, Penny Johnson Gerald, she's like, what did I do?
Yeah, he says almost more with his face than he does with his words. Dear God, this guy, if this good dude does an acting gig with Keith David, we're all impregnated by proxy. But also there's, let me see, what was the name of the lady who played Mrs. Palmer?
Leslie Hope, Terry Bauer.
I have to. No, wait, Mrs. Palmer, the wife of Mr. Palmer.
Oh, Sherry Palmer. Oh, Penny Johnson Gerald.
She was good too. In fact, I almost would have given her second place if not for like Jamie. Jamie really did good when they threatened her with her son. That was amazing.
Make sure I get it again, because I always get their names mixed up. Oh yeah, Karina Arayave, Jamie Farrell. Yep.
And she actually had some really great range throughout the whole episode. So honestly, I was dangerously close to giving her first place.
Well, again, like you said, the fact that for her character, she didn't crack, and Karina Arayave played that so well. Having Tony's gun to her friggin' head, and she's got this scowl on her face, knowing the gun's there, because she's like looking at the phone, but looking at the gun, like her eyes are just darting between them. And she still doesn't cave until they bring up her son. She didn't cave. And you even said when we were watching it, man, this lady's baller right now. Yeah, she's messed up, but she's baller because, Tony's gun is right to the side of her head and she's got the phone in the other ear and she's still not caving.
Dude, her poker face is amazing. And last but not least, we have Bizarro Michelle Obama herself, the Johnson without a Johnson. Yeah, we all remember those enormous Johnson t-shirts from the 90s. And yeah, that wasn't about Lyndon Johnson. That was about Michelle. That's a mighty mandingo you got there,
yeah,
Mrs. Obama.
like you promised, you were still going to bring it up, so there it is.
That's right, people. I call myself a jackass for a reason. But yeah, she actually had great acting in this. In fact, I'd say it was like dangerously close between her and Jamie. But again, you're up against Bizarro Obama, who's up against Jamie, who's up. I mean, it was a great show. And honestly, Jack had great moments. Tony Almeida is starting to show some of that badass we're gonna see from him down the road.
Again, Carlos Bernardi had a great performance from him.
Nina played an absolute stone cold professional to a T. Amazing. Frankly, I kind of wish I could put her on the list, but it's like there were so many people.
Oh yeah.
Even the waitress was just like, I was blown away with the acting in this.
Kathleen Wilholt. Yep.
And I hate to, and this might be the first time I've said this, but this show, its casting is so good. It's right up there with the Princess Bride movie of the 1980s.
Oh, wow.
Not a single bad actor, not a single wasted performance. Honestly, this show is a miracle in television form. So do your best and pray at the altar of Jack Bauer, because if you don't, you know what happens.
Well, then, and I think that is a great leave-off setting point because he mentioned his thoughts of the episode, what he talked about, the characters. And again, it is a great episode. Like I said, not much happened action-wise, but as far as development for story and character, oh, yeah, much. And believe me, the train keeps on rolling from here, folks. So, yeah, just let us know in the comments down below what you think. And let's get this discussion going. This is 8am-9am and
Mr. Jackass signing off.
And we will speak to you guys again later. See ya.
Deuces. Ooh, that was a good episode.
It was, dude.